Today's scripture reading comes from Galatians chapter 3, verses 6 through 9. So also Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness. Understand then that those who have faith are children of Abraham. Scripture foresaw that God would justify the Gentiles by faith and announce the gospel in advance to Abraham. All nations will be blessed through you. So those who rely on faith are blessed along with Abraham, the man of faith. This is the word of the Lord.
Good morning, family. Good morning. Good morning. Kids Club 2025, we did it. How many of you guys were involved in Kids Club this week, either helping or participating? Amazing. Love it. Yes, we danced, we sang, we threw snowballs at Rob and Roy. We saw Grandpa Abe dancing on stage. We did all kinds of fun things together. Anyone come to Kids Club for the first time this year? First timers? Okay, okay, yes, we got some. Perfect. So glad you're with us. So what we're going to do this morning is we are going to talk about some of the things we talked about at Kids Club this week. Because as you know, we talked this week about the promises that God made to Abraham. And how many promises did God make to Abraham? 3 promises that God made to Abraham. And we're going to talk about how those promises are fulfilled in the person of Jesus. And one of the big promises that God made to Abraham is that he was going to be part of a big, beautiful family. A big, beautiful family. And I think all of us would love to be part of a big, beautiful family. I know growing up, maybe you don't know this about me, maybe you do, but I had a last name that I didn't really love. That last name represented my family, and the last name is McDonald. It's not my favorite last name because when you're in elementary school, lots of people will make fun of you because your last name is McDonald, and they'll talk about how your last name is like Ronald McDonald, and old McDonald had a farm, and things like that. And so I just thought, no one is ever going to marry me because no one wants to be thinking about French fries and cheeseburgers on their wedding day. It's never going to happen. I wish I had a regular last name like Nick Brown or Nick Smith or Nick Burger King maybe. Has some interest to it, you know. You've usurped the king of burgers. Interesting. Tell us about that. But why did I want a different last name? Because my last name represented my family. Right? And I just couldn't shake this last name. In fact, when I went to college, I had a friend, her name was Lily, and she was from Mexico, and we were good friends. We'd always sit next to each other, and she would always say, "Hello, Nick McDonald's." And I would say, "Lily, my name is Nick McDonald. Don't add the S, that's a corporation." She said, "You're so funny, Nick McDonald's." I was like, "No, I'm not. I'm serious. Please stop." But we were good friends. And so Nick McDonald had never left me. So what I decided to do at some point was I started to try to turn the tables in this conversation because someone would make a joke and like, "Oh, Ronald McDonald, I just came up with that off the top of my head, haha." And I would say, "Oh, yeah, it's interesting. Actually, you know, McDonald's is one of the most successful corporations in America. And actually, if I show my driver's license to someone at McDonald's, I get a free cheeseburger." And all of a sudden, the conversation would turn like, "Really? Is that true?" I was like, "Well," they're like, "Could I borrow your driver's license? Like, you're kind of set for life." Now, is it true that if I show my driver's license at a McDonald's, I get a free cheeseburger? I don't know. I've never tried that before. It could be true. I think they have a policy where they have to say yes to everything. So technically, I think it's true. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying I should have done that. Why did I do that? Because I wanted to be proud of my last name. I wanted to be proud of my family. And here is the promise that we talked about this week, is that if you are a follower of Jesus, you are part of a big, beautiful family that you can be proud of. Let me give you 2 reasons why you can be proud of your family. First of all, if you follow Jesus, you are a son or daughter of Abraham. Your family's old. It's old. You can trace your family thousands and thousands of years back. In fact, I was talking to my friend Mary Paxton, who some of you know. She helped lead the dances this week. And we were talking a few weeks ago about her family And she told me that she can trace her family lineage all the way back to the Revolutionary War in America. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. Your family's old and they're part of this important part of history. That's incredible that you can do that. You must be part of a really important family. And then I thought, wait a second. If I'm a follower of Jesus, I can trace my lineage thousands of years back to Abraham. He's my great, etc. grandpa. That's amazing. That is amazing. I can trace my family history way back because, as we learned this week, if I'm a follower of Jesus, then I'm a true son of Abraham. But actually, the thing we're celebrating today, the specific thing we're celebrating today, is not just how old Jesus' family is, but how big and beautiful Jesus' family is. That's what Pentecost is all about. It's about how global and worldwide and beautiful Jesus' family is, which means that if you are part of Jesus' family, you have spiritual cousins everywhere in the world. I mean, all over the world, you have spiritual cousins. I mean, I know when I was younger, one of my favorite things to hear from my mom and dad, one of the sweetest sentences I could ever hear in the English language was, "We're going to your cousin's house." I love to hear, "We're going to your cousin's house," because here's what we would do. Some of you, very few of you are going to guess what I'm about to describe right now. We would take 3 different colored balls of yarn, a red, yellow, and blue. Okay, anyone have any idea what we're about to do? Probably not, all right? And what we would do, okay, I got 2. And we would make a circle with these 3 big yellow, blue, and red balls of yarn, 3 strings that went all the way around the basement. Anyone have any ideas right now? Okay, and then we would take a videotape, that's how we used to watch movies. All right, we got more. We put it in, and we would watch our favorite wrestling match between Bret Hart and Owen Hart. They're like sibling rivalries. And you know what they were fighting for? They were fighting for this thing that my cousins kept in their basement. It's the WWF Championship belt right here. And so what would we do? We would watch the wrestling match, and then what do you think we did after that? We'd turn on each other, right? We would just start going at it to see if we could win this championship belt. And then the thing that I like to do is I would say, okay, guys, we're going to spend the next 2 hours planning a choreographed wrestling match. It's not like they do on TV because that's real. But what we're going to do is just made up. We're going to invite the parents down, and they're all going to watch us do our wrestling match. And so that's what we would do all afternoon. And then we'd win this belt right now. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to give this to somebody at the end of the service today, all right? So you can win this, but here's what you have to do. You've got to participate in a game we're about to play. So in order to participate, you need a pen, all right? I think maybe we have a couple of extra pens if you needed some pens. So a parent can help you if you want to, but here's what I want you to do. I want you to look in your bulletin right now, all right, if you want to play this game. You don't have to do well at this game to participate and potentially win the championship belt, all right? But you're going to find on page 11 of your bulletin, you're going to find a map with all 7 continents on it, all right? All 7 continents. So here's what I want you to do. Beneath that map, there are 7 different numbers. And each of those numbers represent the number of Jesus followers on every single continent. And I want you to see if you can write the correct number on the correct continent. You can use these colors right here if you want to, but it can be a little hard to see which colors match up with which, or you can just write the number on the map. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds. See if you can match the numbers to the map. 30 seconds start now. Okay, 10 seconds left. You've got to go with your instincts, go with your gut. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, real quickly, I'm going to give you the answers. All right, so Antarctica at the very bottom there has 2,000 Jesus followers, 2,000 spiritual cousins. Australia on the bottom right, 28 million Jesus followers. This one might surprise you. North America, where we live, 268 million followers of Jesus. Asia, way there on the top right, 379 million followers of Jesus. Europe, that's right next to that, 565 million followers of Jesus. Latin America, 612 million followers of Jesus. And coming in at number 1, Africa, 667 million followers of Jesus. How many of you guys got all of those correct? Okay, really? Okay, great, love that. All right, so you don't have to get them all correct. Just take your bulletins to me afterward. If you filled it out, we'll mix them up and I'll choose a winner, all right? But that's amazing. I mean, think about that map. We think, oh, all the Christians are all the people we see around us. That's true, but think of how many Christians there are in Latin America or in Africa. This is a big, beautiful, spiritual family that Jesus has created. So what I want to do just for a couple minutes is I want to tell you 2 things about that family. I want to tell you, number 1, why you need a spiritual family. And I'm not just talking to kids, I'm talking to every single person in this room. You need to be part of a spiritual family. And then I want to tell you exactly how you can become part of Jesus' spiritual family. So number 1, I want to tell you why every single person sitting in this room needs to be part of a spiritual family. And here's the big reason. Your family is good. It's a good gift from Jesus. But your family isn't everything. It can't be everything. I'm going to give you 3 reasons why. Number 1, your family is going to let you down. Sometimes your family is just going to let you down. One of my favorite stories, series of books, or the Netflix series if you've seen it, is the series of unfortunate events. And it's about the Baudelaire orphans, and their parents have died in a tragic fire. And the story is about the evil Count Olaf, and he's trying to get these children's fortune. And one of the things that happens in all 13 books is that the children recognize that the evil Count Olaf is in disguise. He's disguised as a zookeeper, or he's disguised as a doctor, or he's disguised as even a detective. And the Baudelaire orphans keep saying to all the grown-ups, look, that's the evil Count Olaf. And what do the grown-ups do? They ignore the children. They don't listen to anything they're saying. And so this is one of the themes of the book. And I think one of the reasons this story resonates with us so much is because that is often what it feels like to be a kid, isn't it? It feels like you're saying things and you're trying to describe what your experience is like and what your opinions are like. And the adults around you, they can't really understand all the time. They are not always listening. Sometimes they don't remember what it feels like to be a kid. And the truth is, our parents love us, but they don't understand us all the time the way that Jesus can understand us. And so the offer of becoming part of God's family is that God says, I am the father of this big, beautiful family that I'm inviting you into. And I understand everything about you. I know every single thought that you have, and I understand it. I know when you're feeling happy. I know when you're feeling sad. I know when you're feeling shy. I get that. In fact, Jesus says that God the Father knows things about you that you don't even know about you. He knows how many hairs are on your head. How many of you guys know how many hairs are on top of your head? Exactly. You can tell me exactly. Maybe a few of you, you've lost a lot of hair and you're older, like I have 12. Thanks for bringing it up. But if you're younger, you probably don't know how many hairs are on your head, because God knows things about you that you don't even know about you, and his promise is that he will use this big, beautiful family called the church to take care of the things that you need. So if family's everything, family's good, but if family's everything, they're going to disappoint you, and that's going to be hard. But number 2, if family is really everything to you, if it's like the number one thing that matters to you, The problem with thinking of family as being so important is that you can crush your family with those kinds of expectations. So another series of books I love is the Harry Potter series. Anyone know the Harry Potter series? Read the Harry Potter series? Okay, good. So you all know that at the very beginning of the Harry Potter series, you have Harry Potter and his brother or his cousin, Dudley, right? And Dudley, he's a little bit spoiled. And at the very beginning of the book, we see that because Dudley, he gets the best room in the house. And where does Harry sleep? He sleeps in the closet beneath the stairs. And it's Dudley's birthday at the beginning of the book. And Dudley wants to go to the zoo, but he doesn't want Harry to go with him. And so what do Harry's aunt and uncle do? They say, "Oh, Dudley, you're so good, you're so perfect, you're our world, and so you must be right. Harry shouldn't go to the zoo, but we have to bring him to the zoo. I'm so sorry. Oh, and Dudley, you wanted 52 presents, but he only had 51 presents, so we'll go get you some more presents." And what's happening there? Well, to Harry's aunt and uncle, Dudley is their world. He's everything to them. And what does that do? It ruins Dudley. It ruins him. He's not a good person. He thinks he's the main character in the story, and he's not. And so when we have these really, really high expectations of the people around us that are in our families, and we say, "You're my world, you're everything to me," we can actually make that relationship really, really difficult. And that's true of parents and children. That's also true of husbands and wives, isn't it? In fact, both these things are true of husbands and wives. My spouse, Brenna, she loves me. She doesn't understand me like Jesus understands me. Your spouse, no matter how much they love you, they can never understand everything about you the way that Jesus understands everything about you. And in the same way that we can ruin sometimes children by making them our world, we can do that with our spouse too. In fact, I was having a conversation earlier this week with a high school student, and we were talking about something Pastor Charles had brought up a few weeks ago, the author or essayist Ernest Becker. And Ernest Becker, he's not a Christian, but he's written these series of essays about how in the Western world, we tend not to think of God as a being who affects every single part of our life. And so what do? We have this idea that he calls apocalyptic romance. And all the things we used to get from God, like a sense of purpose and values, we place onto another person. And so that's a very weighty expectation. And this high school student said, I think very perceptively, said, "I wonder if that's one of the reasons why so many people end up separating in their marriages. It's not the only reason, but is that one reason? Is because we have such high expectations of somebody else that we crush them, we destroy them. Or we say, oh, you didn't meet all my expectations, so I need to go find somebody else who will." And I think that was very perceptive. I said, I think that is right. I think that is one reason why there are so many separations in the Western world. See, when family is everything to us, we crush the people around us. We crush them with our expectations. And the last thing is this. If family is everything to you, you can do some pretty bad things in the name of family. This is not a kid-friendly illustration, but have you ever seen a mafia film or read a mafia book? What are they doing? They're killing, they're stealing, they're smuggling, all in the name of what? Family. All in the name of family. Have you ever seen the Fast and Furious films? Right? Doing terrible, terrible things. Pretty much every other line of dialogue in that movie is about family. In fact, you can go on YouTube and there's like a 10-minute thing of like, here's all the times they say family in this movie, because they just say it over and over and over again. What are they doing? They're doing terrible things in the name of family. Family's a good thing. But if family's everything, you can actually become a pretty bad person in the name of family. So you need a spiritual family. How do you become part of that spiritual family? Well, here is where today's verse comes in, because that's the exact question that Paul is answering in Galatians chapter 3, verse 6. He says, "In the same way, Abraham believed God, and God counted him as righteous because of his faith. The real children of Abraham, then, are those who put their faith in God." If you want to be a true son of Abraham, Paul is saying, place your faith in God's promises in the same way that Abraham did. Then you'll be his true son. So there's a way that I sort of joke with my kids sometimes. If one of my three boys is doing something that I really like, I'll say, this is my true son. For example, I only have one member of my family that's a Detroit Lions fan, which I consider my largest failure as a father. No one else is a Detroit. Well, we're working on Russell. He's young, but so Owen is my true Detroit Lions fan, all right? And so when Detroit Lions football games come on, sometimes I will say, me and my true son are going to watch the football game together. What am I saying when I say that? I'm saying right now, Owen most reflects what I value and who I am. That's not really true for the rest of life, but in that particular instance, he is. And in the same way, Paul is saying, if you want to be a true son or daughter of Abraham, do the thing that most characterizes him. Have faith in God's promises. Now, when I just said that, some of you misheard me because you thought I said, if you believe in God like Abraham did, then you're a true son of Abraham. It's actually not what Paul says. Think about this. If God had come to Abraham and said, Abraham, I want you to leave your family and go to the land that I will show you. And Abraham said, God, I believe that you exist. How would God have responded to that? He'd have said, well, that's a very good start, right? That's actually not what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to trust my promise that I could get you where I'm saying I can get you. So I need you to let go of the things that you're trusting in right now, and I need you to cling on to my promises. And so Paul says, if you want to be a true son or daughter of Abraham, you need to be someone who not just believes in God, but you cling to, you trust in his promises. So what promises is Paul thinking of? Well, he's told us in Galatians chapter 2, just the passage, the chapter before. He says, we know that a person is not justified by works of the law, but through faith in Jesus Christ. And so if you want to become a true son or daughter of Abraham, you need to place your faith in Jesus Christ. That Jesus is actually the truer and better Abraham. One of the things that gets Jesus into trouble is that he says, you know what, I'm actually greater than Abraham. I'm older than Abraham. I'm perfect. Abraham, he had some mistakes, but I'm better than Abraham. And Jesus says, my perfect life, that's the true faithful person. I had 100% faith. Jesus' sacrificial death. In Jesus' death, he is the true Isaac. Jesus is the Lamb who gives his life for you. And through Jesus' resurrection, he fulfills all three of Abraham's promises. Through his resurrection, he makes it true that we can be part of the new heavens and earth, the land that God promised to Abraham. He makes it true that we can be part of a big spiritual family. We are these stars in the sky. I don't know if you noticed, you guys made all these stars in the sky, but that is the promise of Jesus coming true. He is the blessing to every single nation. And if you believe that, if you trust in that, then you are part of Jesus' big, beautiful family. So let me close with this. And I want to think specifically of those of us who maybe were part of a family that is a little bit broken. Because growing up, I had a fun family, a lot of love in my family, but a lot of brokenness in my family as well. And one of my favorite stories growing up was the story of Peter Pan. And I watched Peter Pan, the musical, and I read the book, and I saw the 90s version with Robin Williams. That was my favorite. It's not really Peter Pan, but it kind of is. And I thought about, I've been thinking over the years, why is this story so meaningful to me? Why did it mean so much to me growing up? And I think one of the reasons the story was so important to me is that there's a scene in that story where Peter Pan is trying to get inside of a house. And inside of that house, there's this beautiful family. In the family, they love each other, and they're giving each other presents, and they're sitting around the fireplace. And Peter Pan, he's outside the window, and he's looking in, but it's locked from the inside. He can't get inside. And I thought, oh, that's kind of how I felt growing up. I felt like other people get to be part of a big, beautiful family. I don't get to. I just get to look from the outside, and I can't get the door open. And in some ways, what Paul is saying in the book of Galatians is, you're right. You can't get the door open. There's no way to work hard enough or be good enough or strong enough or beautiful enough to be part of God's family. But here's the good news in Jesus. Jesus is the older brother in that family. And he sees you out the window, and he walks toward you and says, if you ask me, I will open this window and I will let you in. I will let you in. Because being part of God's family is not being about good enough or strong enough or perfect enough. It's about trusting in the one who is faithful. He who promised is faithful. That's from our memory verse this week. It's about Jesus. It's about trusting in him. And if that's something that you want to do this morning, I would love to talk to you, or anyone serving communion would love to do that as well. Jesus, we thank you so much for your goodness to us. You made us part of a big, beautiful family. It's what our hearts long for. Thank you that we have family all over the world. Thank you for how big and beautiful you are to make that happen. We ask, Jesus, that as we come to the family table, that we would have that spirit, that same fullness of spirit you gave to your people at the day of Pentecost. In Jesus' name, amen.